Yes! I have some good news, but I also have some sketchy news. So the good news is I did get my registration, and the sketchy news is that 2-3 uniform can only fly one time, and I'm going to tell you how and why and all of the ins and outs of how that's going to work. But she can fly again, but only once. So let's dive in, and let's get 2-3 uniform back in the air. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Chris Palmer. I'm a flight instructor in Homer, Alaska, and 2-3 uniform, my airplane here, as a bit of an update from the last video, cannot fly because the registration is expired. Had a big snafu with the FAA, a lot of paperwork, a lot of time. Literally, the airplane was grounded just for $5 worth of paperwork. So that part is resolved and should be good to go now. However, we've got some other stuff we're dealing with now. So even though 2-3 uniform now has a registration, in the process of waiting for that registration, I couldn't fly the airplane to where I needed the annual done. And so now the airplane is out of annual. I'll explain that in 1 second. The larger discussion of annual, I want to draw more toward the airworthiness perspective of the paperwork that we have to do as pilots. So an aircraft, if it is maintained in an airworthy state, means that the airworthy certificate, which is inside the airplane, is valid. However, since the annual wasn't done or it lapsed, now it is deemed not airworthy. So this brings up a tricky situation because I need to fly 2-3 uniform, or it needs to be flown, to a place where it can get its annual done. I've had it done here in Homer before, but I like to get a second opinion, and now is one of those times when I want to take it to a different mechanic. Apart from that, 2-3 uniform is also going to be getting a Garmin autopilot. It's already kind of set up for it. So that's the process we're going to be going through now. However, she couldn't fly to the place where I was going to get the annual and the autopilot done. But now that the registration is complete, what do? How do we fly it legally when it's not in an airworthy state? We have this thing called Aviate documents, or some maintenance we need to go through. Aviate is the acronym that I use in our online ground school to lay out what those are. And just very quickly, it's the annual, it's the VOR checks, it's the 100 hour, it's the ADs, the transponder, and instrument stuff, and then the ELT. That kind of encompasses most of the stuff. The annual hasn't been done, so we need to go get the annual done for the airplane, and the people that are going to do the autopilot know how to do that. So what do I do now? I'm stuck. How do I get this airplane from here to there with the registration, but with an unairworthy airplane, or an airplane that's not airworthy? And that brings up a new term you may or may not have heard before, and that is ferry permit. So we need to get a ferry permit for this airplane. So I'm going to talk you through that really quickly and the process. I want to make this really quick. So when you need to take the airplane from one place to another, this happens all the time, to get some maintenance done, you can get a temporary flight permit, a ferry permit from the FAA to do that. It is basically only for airworthiness issues, things to do with aircraft maintenance, in other words. So because this is out of annual, I plan on getting it annual somewhere else. We can apply for a ferry permit from the FAA and get that temporary flight. So I talked to the FSDO here. The FSDO is like a local FAA office, and they gave me approval to fly the airplane, but with a lot of caveats. We have to have a mechanic inspect the airplane. It's kind of like a pre-flight, make sure that there aren't any ADs that are really important, or that like emergency ADs that haven't been done. We need to have a logbook entry for that. Only specific pilots can fly the airplane. It has to have a specific route. It's only valid for so long. And so the FAA wrote all this paperwork. They sent it to me, and you're going to see that process take place today. 2-3 uniform, as long as everything's good to go, will be deemed airworthy for one flight only to go from here up to Palmer, Alaska, where it's going to have the autopilot done. And it's a beautiful day, and that should all work out really well. I'm not going to fly the airplane. I just got home. I ended up finding out that my friend, neighbor Daniel, who you guys have seen in previous videos, he's going to fly the airplane up to Palmer. because he's flying out of Anchorage tonight to go for a little vacation break. Because here's another thing, okay? Gosh, there's just like so much stuff all over the place. Our runway here in Homer closes down tonight for the entire week. So at 8 p.m., we got to get this airplane out before 8 p.m. because at 8 p.m., the runway is closed for the entire week. So I have kind of a lot of pressure here to make sure I get this airplane out of here. And it sounds like it's all going to happen. So again, the process, the airplane is registered, but it's not airworthy right now because of the annual. I can get the annual done somewhere else with a ferry permit. And so I got that all ready. I have it here. It needs to be signed. We need to do a logbook entry with the mechanic. Need to have the paperwork in the airplane. And so all that is good to go. Neighbor Daniel's gonna fly it up to Palmer, and that's where the work will begin to get the airplane, get a new autopilot in the airplane, or not new, but it's first autopilot, but it is a new autopilot. And then also get the thing annualed. So all that's gonna happen at the same time while they have 2-3 uniform opened up. A pretty exciting process, but it's a lot to keep track of, and there's a lot going on. And last time I talked a lot about pilot protection services and making sure that you have all this stuff like lined up, and if you have any questions, make sure to talk to them. Thankfully, I've done this ferry permit thing before, so I didn't really feel like I needed to talk to anyone this time, nor is it really like a legal issue, but I'm really happy they're there because I could get in a sticky situation, and like I talked about last time, I really needed to talk to them first with this registration issue before I talk to anyone else. So this is sponsored by Pilot Protection Services because all of that stuff that I just mentioned is a lot to keep track of. And the first time you go through it, and even subsequent times, I just can't really imagine not having the help to do it. Saving hours and hours and hours of your own time with all this research online that I've done. And like, even with online research, you know how it is. You get so many different opinions from people on how they did it and how it's done that like you really don't get a clear-cut answer all the time, and you just need someone to like tell you what to do and to help with the process. And that's what Pilot Protection Services can do in many ways. Here's an interesting thing. So after the last video, on the way to Sun and Fun, I had to stop by through Salt Lake City to get an appointment with a secondary doctor that wasn't my FAA doctor, but it was for my FAA medical. And so I had this situation last year, and I'm sure I'll talk about this in another video, but I had this situation last year where I did my medical, they did approve it, but they wanted another test, and I couldn't get in for an appointment with my doctor that they wanted to hear from, a neurologist, for like 2 months. And so the FAA did this real big solid for me. They gave me like a temporary 3-month extension for my medical to go get it done, but I had to make a special trip to Utah to do that. But when you get that letter for the first time, I've gotten the FAA letters many times for my medical. It's so hard to get through that and like understand exactly what they're saying. In a lot of ways, it always just seems like they're coming down on you and you're not approved to fly. So like, there's all these irons in the fire right now. There's a registration thing. I know that my annual was gonna expire because that registration thing wasn't fixed. I've got this medical thing that I was dealing with. This year I'm ahead of it, so I'm gonna be good to just go and have that test done and get my medical done, which will be really simple. But for those of you that are dealing with like medical stuff or airplane airworthiness stuff or an FAA action against you, any number of things, having Pilot Protection Services there is super, super helpful. This is just a lot to go through. I guess that's my message. This is a lot to process as you go through all this stuff. So here's what's gonna happen next. My mechanic is gonna stop by here in a little bit. He is going to check off the airplane. I'll talk to him for a second about that process, and his interpretation is very clear on the paperwork though. I'm gonna be getting the airplane all set up, airworthy, to as if I was flying the plane, even though I'm not flying the plane, because my friend, neighbor Daniel, again, you would have seen him in the series where I flew south with the airplane to get the panel done. He flew down and back with me to Wisconsin from Alaska. He is going to be flying the airplane up there, but he's gonna come right after work, right before the runway closes, and the airplane needs to be ready to go. And just essentially, he won't like just leave because he's gonna do his own pre-flight, but we just wanna make sure there aren't any hiccups along the way. I'm gonna get the airplane running, all sorts of stuff. So that's kind of the plan for the rest of the day. I'm gonna bring you guys along for some of that, And so you can kind of see the process and see the people and see what's happening. And then we're gonna be taking the airplane up to Anchorage. And the next step is autopilot, annual done, a few little things, a few little squawks fixed on the plane, getting it ready for the summer flying season. So that is where we're at. And so yeah, let's pause here for a second and maybe a little commercial break of sorts. And then we'll pick back up when Rob comes to the hangar to get the inspection done for the ferry permit. So here we go. Okay, just to give you a quick play-by-play, I just went and picked my son up from school, dropped him off. The mechanic, he can't look at it right now. He needs to do it later. Daniel said he can do it a little bit earlier, so we're just trying to thread the needle, make everyone happy, not put on too much pressure. I've got the paperwork here all ready to sign. This is the ferry permit. The mechanic will sign this. I'm gonna send one copy with the airplane. We're gonna do a maintenance log and get all that squared away, so that should be good. And so my job now, with an hour, hour and a half to spare, is to get the airplane all pre-flighted and ready and warmed up and fueled up. So quite a bit of work to do. Want to make it as easy as possible on Daniel and Rob. So, you know, I don't just throw it at them, but I actually do something. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now and share a few clips along the way. And then we'll catch up with them when they show up, whenever that is. So let's go to the next step. Happy to do 100 hours sometime this summer. Okay, I just got a text message from Daniel and he's on his way over. Got the airplane run up, warmed up. Still need to fuel and do some other things, but things are moving quickly now. So she's looking good, humming along pretty well. And yeah, I would fly it. Kind of exciting. Okay, just got the airplane all fueled up. And neighbor Daniel's here. How was your flying day?
Pretty good, yeah. The wind got a little weird towards the end of the day, but yeah.
Nice.
Gosh, I almost had a heart attack. I was coming in Nanwalek, and there's a little 172 buzzing around, and they say they're going into Nanwalek. And I'm like, okay.
They saw it on Flight Sim.
I know.
So they have to go in and do it themselves.
Anyway, I land, and I'm like waiting, and then here he comes as a low pass over, and I'm like, oh good, he's just gonna do a low pass, you know? And anyway, so I'm about ready to get back in and take off, and he comes in and way high, gets about halfway down the runway, and he's still like 10 feet off the runway, and I'm like, no.
Jeez.
He had about a third of the about a quarter of the runway left. He touched down and he just jammed the brakes, and I'm like,
Jeez.
it's like, did you make it? It almost looked like he went over the side, but
Oh my gosh.
yeah, anyway, he made it. God, yeah, I didn't want to be trapped in there. In Nanwalek, you know, in the airport closure.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Cool. I just did the run up. And it's fueled up. It didn't take all the way, fuel all the way. But the right tank is completely full. It had 15 in it before I did that.
Okay.
I've been showing everyone the saga of the registration and ferry flight and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So Daniel's just doing his own pre-flight right now, and then we'll get all the paperwork signed and he'll head off into the blue yonder. Okay, we got a mechanic sign off, and it was a little bit tricky because people are busy today. Lots of people get ready for the new season this time of year because it's just barely getting nice and they want to get all their airplanes ready to go, so makes things a little bit busier this time of year. Daniel just jumped in, he's about to fire up, and he set it up to Anchorage, and then there's a lot of other things we've been doing to make sure he's good to go up there, like arranging a ride, making sure all the paperwork is good, gave him some cash, all this, tons of stuff. It's been a crazy past few hours getting him all ready, but things were good. And yeah, 2-3 uniform will get out of here before the airport closes. There we go. Clear. And it should all go very well. So here we go. Off he goes.
I've been away for far too long, but now I'm on my way back home. I hear the west winds calling out my name. They're telling me to head your way, down your road and past your gates. Keep your eyes on the horizon. I was looking to belong when I'd already found my home. Won't be long, I'm there before the setting sun, for you to fall into my arms, a place I call my home. I was looking to belong when I already found my home.
I am standing in the middle of the floor where my airplane once was, but now 2-3 uniform is not here. She is officially where she needs to be to get the autopilot installed, to get the annual done, to get the other squawks taken care of. Here's a little montage of Daniel flying up to Anchorage. He took a few pictures and videos for us. So he had a good time flying up there. It was a beautiful day, clear skies. There was some turbulence along the way that he was a little bit worried about. Someone had reported some moderate to severe turbulence near Turnagain Arm, but that was in the mountains. He steered clear of that. Only had a few bumps here and there along the way. A little windy in Palmer where he landed. Ended up phoning a friend, and my friend and colleague at the Alaska Airmen, among other things, Aris, went and picked him up in an airplane with like an hour notice. So huge thanks to Aris for doing that. He flew in a Saratoga to pick him up, and that was super helpful. Got Daniel down to Anchorage really quick after he had dropped off the airplane, and everything set up there. and got him to his destination. And then Daniel did stand by and went to see family and friends. Last night, when Daniel had left, I came in here in the hangar and I started to film this kind of exit interview or end of this video, and my battery died on my camera and things, but I'm kind of glad it didn't work out because I needed some time to decompress from all of that. It was a crazy day trying to get out, lots of external pressure with the runway closing, with this ferry permit, with getting this autopilot done in time for the Airman show in a few weeks, which is kind of like our air venture here in Alaska. Just lots of things going on. Then Daniel needing to go and me just getting back from Sun and Fun. And I literally got back at 1 a.m. the night before and then dove right into this. So it's given me a little bit of time to slow down, decompress, kind of absorb what just happened. And so I think that perspective is really important to share because it just goes to my point. And I'm really not making this up. Like, I was stressed about all of this stuff happening. Like, as a pilot, when you become a pilot, you're not just signing up to go have these beautiful flights and go explore the world and have a rewarding career, have an amazing community to be a part of, have great coworkers that you see eye to eye on. You know, there's really a lot of great things about aviation, but when you sign up to be a pilot, you sign up for all of the other stuff too. So you sign up for the complexities of the law, keeping those laws, staying legal the whole way, all this information you need to know, all the, you know, not only that legal stuff, but insurance. And it's just a lot to handle. It really is. And, you know, you get the layer of being a pilot, and then you get the layer on top of that of being an aircraft owner, and then on top of that, a commercial pilot, and on top of that, perhaps a business owner where I own a flight school. And so it's just more and more and more and more, which I was kind of dealing with everything all at once the last few days, or at least yesterday and throughout this process of owning an airplane and being a pilot and keeping it airworthy, all these things just like mixed together. It is so easy to screw something up. It is so easy to miss something that you're supposed to get. There's a lot to keep track of in this process. So again, it goes back to that idea of pilot protection services from AOPA. Like, this isn't a commercial. I mean, I guess in a way it is because it's sponsored, but even if this wasn't sponsored, I'm just like tired of all the stuff that I need to do to make this work. And it's so overwhelming to feel like I can't go to anyone and I have to do everything myself. And if I don't do it correctly, then I could get in trouble, and that could threaten my license, and I could get in trouble with the FAA, and like all of these things that are really just hard to absorb and put a lot of stress on the situation, rather than just like, hey, I need to expand the team. I need more help than just myself to see me through this time when I'm growing a business and, you know, feeding my family with the proceeds from that business and trying to stay fit to fly and all those things. It's just a lot to deal with, and I need a partner on my side. And so I'm very grateful to feel like, hey, I'm not alone anymore. I can call someone, lean on someone to help out. And to be quite honest, Pilot Protection Services is there for that really tough stuff, the stuff that is like really deep in the legal realm, stuff I have questions about, and they were super helpful with this complex thing of my registration being a problem, and then being out of annual and needing to do a ferry permit and seeing through that process, making sure everything's good there. But I reached out to a lot of other people as well to help me out. I mean, let's just list them off really quick. The mechanics around here that helped me get the airplane inspected and signed off for the flight. Daniel, who is my friend and neighbor, who I'd love to hang out with more, but you know, he's busy, I'm busy. We don't see each other as much as I'd like, but he is willing to jump at this opportunity to fly 2-3 uniform up because it would do me a huge favor and kind of him a favor. More so me a favor than him, but he could fly up there and then kind of leave town. It was more headache than Daniel needed. Like, it was a lot. He flew all day yesterday for his job, and then he had to deal with getting the last minute things ready for me, and then potentially being stranded in Palmer and then needing a ride. So there's Daniel, my friend Bill, mechanic, Joe the mechanic, Rob the mechanic. Like, all these people really, really helped me through the process of getting the airplane out the door Garmin for helping me get the autopilot stuff like shipped and ready and there. The new installer that I have up in Palmer. So all these things coming together is so, so important to surround yourself with people. So at the moment, really good news. 2-3 uniform, of course, isn't here. Things are looking better. She's registered. She's at a place to get the annual done. She's going to get the autopilot done. And we are on track for a successful flying season this summer with lots and lots of great things coming. But it took a whole lot of people. It took the comfort of knowing someone like AOPA Pilot Protection Services was there for me, especially through that registration process. That was the most complex part and very tough to deal with. I've been learning a lot, trying to share those lessons with you. So that's where we're at. Also taking a step back, realizing this process, all of this stuff is hard. And we've got to do that. We've got to be there for each other. We've got to have people in our corner. So I don't know, I guess it couldn't have gone any better outside the current circumstances, but I'm just telling you, at some point there's going to be something that comes along the way for you that makes this process pretty complex, and it's going to be important that you have people on your side. If you choose to go check out Pilot Protection Services as someone that can be on your side through these situations, I promise they'll be helpful. You can check out their link down in the description. So much more to come, but 2-3 uniform is on the mend. She's an airplane. She needs to be in the air. And so I'm really looking forward to that as the summer months come here in Alaska, and very much looking forward to getting to the next step. Very grateful for the people around me. Grateful for the opportunities that I have. We have amazing opportunities in aviation, and again, it's such a cool industry to be a part of, but this can take the fun out of it. You know, I went home, I fell asleep last night at 9 p.m. That's a little bit because of the tail end of Sun and Fun, but I fell asleep at 9 p.m. and I was tired. I was just like tired from traveling and then all of that all day yesterday until today. So feeling better. Thanks for letting me decompress. I really want you guys to be successful in what you're doing in aviation. I want you to have people on your team. I'm always here to help you in whatever way I can, but I'm not an expert in everything. And that's why, again, like Pilot Protection Services, AOPA, a great organization to trust, to be a part of, to have people on your side in a really meaningful way. And then keep your friends close and treat them well. Make sure they know how much you appreciate them for what they do in aviation. Aviation is all about lifting others up and helping them throughout the process. And I'm just so grateful for everyone that is around me that gives in little ways to help with making all this happen. There are so many people behind the scenes that help out in little ways, even just ways of encouragement. It's just so, so awesome. So thank you for listening. This is probably a little bit too long-winded, but that's my report. Lots of good stuff coming now. The 2-3 uniform is going to be back in the air, and we'll see that stuff on the flip side. Make sure to be looking out for that autopilot content coming. Also content on Garmin Pilot. And yeah, just man, it kind of opens the floodgates to a long, fun summer of a lot of great flying. So remember to like this video if you liked it, subscribe to stick around, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing, and leave a question, leave a comment. What do you think about this process? Do you think this is crazy, all that we have to deal with aviation? It's a lot for just like regular people to have to go into this legal world. So curious your perspectives too. And if you have any questions for me, otherwise happy to try to answer those. So thanks for being here. Fly safe, fly legally, and until next time, throttle on.